and your rhetoric, you know what's going to happen? J.D. Vance is going to be the president next. Tulsi Gabbard's going to be the president. Eric Trump's going to be the president. We are going to keep having Republican presidents because of people like you still talking Russia shit, Joe. Get over it. It's over.
So Vinny from the PBD podcast on the Piers Morgan Uncensored does get extremely heated where he's yelling at a never Trumper, or Joe Walsh, who is talking about Tulsi Gabbard being a Russian asset dangerous to the country, that the whole kind of conversation that he actually gets demolished by Vinny and Dave Smith, where they both call him dumb and ridiculous. But there's like also a lot of other moments with Vinny from the PBD podcast, as well as others on the Piers Morgan show, where they talk about a litany of other things and stuff between Vinny and this guy, and where Vinny is going off, and Vinny's face, as you all will see, will get extra red, even redder than usual. So we're going to go ahead and get into this discussion, this debate with Vinny from the PBD podcast, as well as Piers Morgan on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel, click bell notifications, so that way you're notified of future uploads and updates.
Is among President Trump's controversial picks. The incoming director of national intelligence spoke to Jesse Waters at Fox News.
He's already leading. He's already engaging with so many of these world leaders around the world on the phone constantly. And he's showing the kind of leadership that the American people voted for.
We're joined on the panel now as the host of The Social Contract, former Republican presidential candidate and Congressman Joe Walsh, who says that Gabbard is a Putin cheerleader. Well, Joe, welcome back to Uncensored. You think she's a total disaster. Why?
You can't trust her. This country cannot trust her with our intelligence. If I'm Pierce, if I'm one of our allies, there's no way if she's appointed, I'm sharing my intelligence with America. Look, I've said before, she's at best a Putin cheerleader. At worst, she's a Putin asset. For the past decade, she has done nothing but defend Vladimir Putin and parrot Putin and Russian propaganda. I mean, again, there's a list. I could take 30 minutes and go through the list. That's a humongous concern.
But they go through the list and say it. I mean, I'm talking people who are never Trumpers, or even those who are on the left and stuff, accusing Tulsi Gabbard as well as others of being, you know, Russian propagandists and stuff, supporting the Putin without providing any evidence. Okay, and that right there is what gets me the wrong way. Gets a lot of you the wrong way as well. And the fact that no one on the left, or even those who consider themselves as never Trumpers and stuff, will go out there and say these things, accusations against people like Tulsi Gabbard without any evidence. That shows, you know, that they don't even have anything to stand on. Okay, so I can't wait to see what Vinny has to say about this.
Not on our side. She's clearly on Russia's side.
She literally fought for America. She served her country and fought for America. How can you say she's not on our side?
She's still up here. She's still in the military. She's still in the military. Joe, first of all, this is the guy that says he's not you're not a Democrat. I remember this guy who was on the PBD podcast. You are exactly the problem that, listen to me, I want you to keep talking the way that you're talking, because of people like you, it's going to, hey, excuse me, you know what, let me finish. Because of people like you, and your rhetoric, you know what's going to happen? J.D. Vance is going to be the president next. Tulsi Gabbard's going to be the president. Eric Trump's going to be the president. We are going to keep having Republican presidents because of people like you still talking Russia shit, Joe. Get over it. It's over. You're talking about an active military girl. She's a lieutenant colonel in the army, and you're saying she's an asset. You're an idiot. Yes. You're an idiot. And people are tired of your bullshit.
Okay.
Boom, 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 boom. Bombs exploding everywhere. No pun intended. But yeah. Tulsi Gabbard, she spoke out against her own party, stating that the party's going further left. They forgot what it means to be, you know, patriotic in this country. And also, Tulsi Gabbard saw the censorship happening from the left, and that she got tired of it. And then people like this guy who who they're talking to, Joe Walsh, it's like I think he's a Republican, but he's a never Trumper. So, but you might as well say that he's a Democrat by these talking points and stuff. But the fact of the matter is, Vinny from the PBD podcast is really laying it into him, exposing this dude. And Vinny didn't even let up at all, and I'm proud of him for that. Now, I don't like to cuss him, but this is Vinny that we're talking about here, okay? And Vinny really did have some good points where he's basically telling people like, Joe Walsh, as well as others who are on the left and other Trumpers, to the whole Russia thing is gone, is over, is stupid, beyond stupid at this point. And we got people who are still holding on to that whole Russia's bad and just narrative, when in reality, there's a lot of people who are seeing that, Russia is actually, basically out there, doing their own thing, not interfering with the U.S., okay? But it's also amazing how the U.S. is also often interfering in different things, but that's a different story for a different day. But let's go ahead and get right back into this debate with Vinny as well as others on the panel.
They didn't respond, Vinny.
Change the record.
They didn't respond, Vinny.
Do me a favor,
Change
my
the
friend.
record, bro.
Instead of attacking me, attack what I said about Tulsi Gabbard. For a decade,
she's a
she
Russian
has
asset.
done nothing but ferret Putin. Address that. Address that.
But but Joe, I'll address that.
I'll address that
Okay, I'm going to come to. Hang on. I'm going to come to Gillian in a second. All I would say, Joe, is I get an email each week from Ian Bremner, one of the guys I most respect in the political world. He's very balanced, gives very insightful weekly emails about what's going on in the news. He said he's seen absolutely no evidence that she has ever been anything even approaching a Russian asset. It's a total myth of the Democrat side to suggest she ever has been.
Pierce, you're going to ignore 10 years of what she said?
Well, she's allowed to have she's allowed to have an opinion.
Well, of course she is.
Well, hang on, she's allowed to have an opinion about Ukraine. She can have an opinion about Ukraine.
No, of course she
and
is.
You may not agree with that opinion. And by the way, I don't agree with her opinion about Ukraine, but she's allowed to have it. It doesn't make her a Russian asset.
No, Pierce, exactly. She's allowed to have her opinion. Donald Trump has picked her to head up all our intelligence efforts in this country.
Yeah, but there is no evidence that she would be a threat to leaking that intelligence to Russia. It's a myth.
Not at all.
All right, let me go to Gillian.
She's either a dupe or an asset, because everything she's done the past 10 years and said has been exactly what Russia would want her to say or do. So she's either an asset or a dupe.
That's the dumbest standard ever. Who cares? If I said Saddam Hussein doesn't have weapons of mass destruction, that might be exactly what Saddam Hussein wants me to say. That doesn't mean anything. You see, Pierce, this is the trick here. And I'm sorry, I know you want to go to Julian, but the trick is that the same way they used to say Trump-Russia collusion, they wouldn't say Donald Trump's in a conspiracy with the Russians. You see, because that's actually meets the criminal code. And then so you just say collusion, because what does that even mean? They could have had a phone call. Okay, they're colluding, but that's totally legal. So when you say she's a Russian asset, you give this wink and a nod like she's a traitor, when what it means, and Pierce, you disagree with me on this topic too, but listen, the argument is that there were 1 million off-ramps to the war in Ukraine, and that the West chose to not take any of them, and that this war could have been avoided, and it could have been negotiated away. Now, the idea that if someone makes this argument, your counter to that is to say that you're a Putin asset. This is first off, it's just despicable, and it's profoundly stupid. It makes absolutely no sense at all. So listen, at least during the original McCarthyism period, at least during the House Committee on American Activities, at least back then, there were some communists. Nobody is loyal to Vladimir Putin. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And he still didn't provide any actual factual evidence out there to show what Tulsi Gabbard's done, what she said, even showed that she has support for Putin, or what makes her a Russian asset. Only the fact that, she exposed the Democrats as well as the Republican establishments and everything. And the fact of the matter is he has no leg to stand on with these different arguments. Now, granted, there's been a number of people out there who may support Russia, and that's a different story. But the fact of the matter is that they've seen what American establishment, the Republican and Democrat parties on the establishment, what they have to offer, what they've done. And that's clearly nothing. And that's why people are shifted from this. That's why people like Tulsi Gabbard actually exposed them.
No, Tulsi Gabbard, of course, is entitled to her opinion as a citizen of this country. But if for 10 years your opinion is identical to Russian propaganda, we are entitled to question that.
How is it identical to Russia propaganda? That's the one thing he's even you're sharing with people. How is her opinions, like her entitled opinions, how is that, in common with Russia propaganda? That's the one thing that people like him are never going to answer.
And someone like that,
you're saying nothing, and I'm entitled to make the point that that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life.
You both made your points. Let me bring it. Okay. Okay. Time out. Let's bring in Gillian. Been waiting very patiently to get back in here. I mean, Gillian, my experience of Tulsi Gabbard. I interviewed Tulsi a couple of months ago. I thought she was extraordinarily impressive, I have to say. And I think this idea that you categorize her because she happens to think that the history of the Ukraine-Russia war, that she actually has a view, which many on the Republican side do, by the way, that actually it could have been avoided. I don't believe that, but I certainly understand that view, and it's been expressed to me by professors and everybody else. I don't certainly look upon her as some kind of traitor for having that view. What do you think?
Okay, first of all, I believe that for half of those 10 years, wasn't she a celebrated Democrat, or am I forgetting or missing something? That said, let's look at what she's actually said. So this is a combat veteran that was deployed to Iraq, which was an absolute pointless war by neocons like Dick Cheney, who I personally think is a war criminal, but we could table that argument for another day. This is a woman that I imagine has seen people die in horrible ways, has seen mothers lose sons, wives lose husbands. She's for peace. Now, when you are engaging in a proxy war with a nuclear power, I would imagine that we should do everything possible to ensure that that does not happen. And in addition, she's also raising the alarm bell about biochemical weapons in Ukraine, these labs, which is exactly how we got COVID, is gain-of-function research. And she has said specifically that we need diplomacy, that if you look at Reagan, he spoke with Gorbachev. If you look at Kennedy, he spoke with Khrushchev to avoid disaster. That's what she has advocated for. That's why she sat with Assad and all of the people, the people that opposed him. She sat with everybody when she went to Syria. Didn't Nancy Pelosi also sit with Assad, unless I'm crazy? And not only that, if we look at, I'm with Dave. I have done a lot of homework on this one.
Civilians, well before.
Julia Michaels sure did do her homework on this. I really hope to continue with this in the near future video. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you might have for this particular topic. If you enjoyed what I shared in this video, go ahead, smash the like button, and share the video far wide across social media. And if you ever just done so already, enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. So then, peace.